Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 5 of Former Employees of Glasgow Scots, and today I have Wilfred Aldridge.
Yeah, that's me.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Right. First question to most people is when did you start and when did you
I
finish?
started in early January, very beginning of January 1950, and finished in 1981.
Yes.
September, October time.
Excellent. Yeah. Time served. Did you do an apprenticeship or
I started off, excuse me, as a prospective apprentice.
perspective?
Yeah. But after a while, I moved over into the office at the suggestion of a friend who also worked in the office.
Okay. Who was that?
John Balls.
John Balls.
Yeah, still alive.
Yeah.
Lives on Gertrude Road.
Okay, well, that's not too far.
No.
Yeah.
And,
So you ended up in, would that be general accounts or accounts?
well, it was the general office, common accounts, and within there was the post section as well, the post. So that's where I started off as a post boy.
A post boy?
In the office side after I moved over.
So you got to run around, because there's obviously no emails or anything, so you got to take the post around?
Yep, well, no, not take the post around, but go and collect the post.
Collect the post?
Yeah. The outgoing post.
Outgoing post,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So how was that? Like, big world for a 15-year-old, isn't it?
Well, it was, yeah. And, because they're quite big. They include not just the office, but also the factory as well, as far as the test bed is, to go up there as well.
Oh, we'll pick things up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All their mail.
Yeah. So you got to see a lot of different areas and
got to know different people by moving. That's how I know so many.
Yeah, I see your comments. Name dropping here and there. So
yeah.
There's some names to throw in today, which would be good.
Sometimes you forget, and then all of a sudden something happens. You remember one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what did that come with? A uniform of sorts?
Oh no, just your normal.
Oh, I think of a postman's sort of uniform. I don't know why.
Oh no, nothing like that. No.
And who was in charge of the postal area?
Well, the chief accountant, James Olker, was in charge of the whole of the general accounts and post area. That was all in one office.
Right.
He was the boss, if you like.
Okay.
And under him was a chap called Nelson Bell. He was the assistant accountant. And
yeah. And so how long did you do that for?
The postal part of it, I suppose I did that for about 18 months or so, something like that. And then I moved on into the accounts department, and which was exactly the same off. No further away from the post department than you are now from me.
Really?
Yeah, just about the same. Yeah.
Just move your chair.
Yeah.
And was that something you wanted to do, like when you left school? Then I mean, did you?
What, in the office?
Yeah.
No, I really didn't know what they wanted to do.
Most people don't know what they want to do in these days. Yeah.
You didn't look for a job. Big employers looked for you.
Oh, okay.
Because there's so much employment around.
Yeah. Scots was a big employer at the time, wasn't it?
They were. In fact, you say that in the office block, which is now apartments.
Yes.
Yeah. They had a photograph in there on the entrance lobby, and an aerial photograph of the main and Thorpe Roadworks, and many people will probably remember this photograph, and it started off Long Scott and Electromotors of Norwich and Manchester employ over 3,800 people.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, now look at it.
Yeah, no.
That's about
couple hundred.
A couple hundred, is it?
Yeah.
So different.
Yeah. And in the accounts, what did you find yourself doing?
Well, I started off doing the packing accounts, among other things, and then packing accounts. What else did I do? And running around in general,
Yeah, general.
So they weren't full. Didn't take me all day to do that, so I fit in other things that they wanted done.
Yeah. Was there many in that office then?
There was the purchase invoice section, not the sales invoice section, because that was in a different office. And there was the clerks, the general office, the accounts clerks, under Nelson Bell, the assistant accountant. Yeah. And then the separate office, but with a big glass window, was James Olga, the chief accountant. Yeah.
Did you sort of then, you spent most of your time at Scots thereafter was in the accounts
In the
department.
accounts department,
Yeah.
in one form or the other. Yeah.
Did you work you up the ladder, like to become management, or?
No, I didn't go into management. Well, not management, but I was in charge eventually of the sales invoice section.
Sales invoice
Which,
section, yeah.
Although at that time, in the early days, it was in a separate office.
Yeah.
When in the old buildings, which I think part of now destroyed, demolished up near the railway cottages.
Yeah,
That's where the
for
accounts
car park.
department probably was,
Right.
But then when we moved into the main office, then eventually the sales invoice section got moved into the main accounts office.
Yeah.
Down at if you look at the big office building from the front, the far right hand side, ground floor, was the accounts office.
The accounts office.
And
okay.
Our section was at the
Because the
very back of that
draftsmen
office.
were at the top, weren't they?
Yes,
I
the
remember
one with the wavy
from
roof
pictures
was the
I've
drawing
seen.
office.
Yeah.
That was the drawing office.
Yeah, and the postal bit, if I remember right, is you got the steps was sort of to the left a bit.
That's right,
Is
around
that
the
right?
corner.
Yeah.
That's where the post.
Yeah, I didn't go in that big building that much,
No,
to be fair.
No.
Maybe cut through like for the canteen and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But where the post department was, in that building was originally where they kept all the drawing office drawings, the stores or whatever you want to call them.
Did you ever go downstairs into
In the basement?
The basement?
Oh
if you
yeah,
were? Did you?
more times than 100.
Was that a bit scary down there? I think I might have gone down once,
Yeah.
and I can't remember. Probably
Just
to
go down the
someone-
stairs.
Yeah.
Interestingly, in the accounts department,
Oh, I'll tell you why I went down. They did a hearing test down there.
they had a big movie down there.
Did hearing tests.
Still
Did
running
hearing
with
tests.
that ran the. That was running 24 hours a day at tremendous speed in the strong room at the very end.
Oh, I never. I just went in for my hearing test and got
Oh, I
out
see.
again. I found it a bit dark and dingy for me, but
I suppose it was really.
yeah. But you used to go down there quite a bit. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and originally.
Oh, the records, I suppose, were kept down there.
Yes, it were.
Yeah.
All the accounts department records and other things, of course.
Yeah.
But the very far end, at the as you look at the building, at the left-hand end, in the basement, was the strong room, which had a separate door.
Yeah.
And in there they kept all the, if you like to call them, the private accounts and things like that. And also, eventually they had this very Scott-made motor that worked the very primitive now computers and things upstairs.
Well, I was going to say about computers. Well, how did they sort of come in like during your time there? I suppose.
They had these.
Obviously, you said earlier about secretaries were on there.
Yes, that was all. They were all still, when I left, they were still all doing it by hand, but all the payrolls and things like that. Yeah.
That'd be computerised.
Talk about payrolls, something you may or may not remember. I think it was before your time, because you started '89.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, it would be before your time. When they had the great robbery there.
Oh, go on, tell me about that. I might have seen it on the Facebook. Yeah, I think that might have been you. Tell me about it. Yeah,
that happened, and
not like the Great Train robbery, but
almost. I think it was about £20,000 in.
Was it?
I think.
And was this wages?
They were all wages in the safe, in the cashiers, which is again was at the far left-hand side of the building.
Yeah.
And these chaps, I believe, they came from Leicester. Got in there, and I think they had a settling cutters or something where they got away.
Proper break in there.
Oh yeah, overnight.
So they must have known about it.
Oh yes.
So an inside job, I reckon.
Yeah, but
to make some notes here. Inside job, was it? They must have known money was in there.
Yeah, but they
did they get caught? Or?
They did eventually, but what happened was that they left their car on the car park. And that was sort of solitary on the car park, and somebody apparently at Coleman saw it there and reported it.
Ah.
And the police came down, and of course they chased them. I believe they eventually caught them somewhere near Lowestoft.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a long while ago now, so I don't quite remember perhaps all the details probably, but I believe the chap who was the ringleader got about 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder what he's done there. I'll see if I can interview him next.
That'd be interesting.
That would be interesting. Yeah.
The other side of that is, of course, the next morning we had to go up the bank, and I went with Ted Castle and Tommy to get some more money to pay wages out.
Yeah. And did you have to take the money for like the Sell House and the Thorpe? Did you have to take the wages up? Because
eventually, we
brown envelopes,
wasn't it? Yes, little brown envelopes in trays.
Yeah.
In Reg, I can't think of his surname now. but he worked in the cashiers, and we went up in these little Morris mine, a Morris 1000.
Well, there's still a bit of
with all this
£3
money in
really.
the car regularly every Friday at the same time, same route. You know.
Did you do that after the robbery? I suppose
Yes,
you would.
yeah, well, that was some while after.
Well, it must have been in the back of your mind was carrying all that money about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was one of the little things I got involved in. You know.
Cool.
But when you're thinking back, I mean, that was not a good thing to do, was it? Very risky.
Well, yeah, that's it.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, they hang us 10 and 11, I believe they were called, weren't they?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Just because on the Facebook group, obviously, I love your comments and a couple of pictures you have posted. One you mentioned national service you did in 54, 53, 53, yeah.
53 to 55.
Yeah.
February 53, February 55.
And another comment was about Sid Postal. He was a former sergeant, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was either a sergeant or a sergeant major. I don't know which.
But you were 15 then when you met
15,
him.
Yeah.
And was he military sort of?
He was military to the to the core. Yeah. I remember that when we actually on our first day there, all us young lads, prospective apprentices, John, who was going into the office, and other people. Joe. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, in the background.
Yeah, we all lined up outside, and Sid Postal lined us all up in a line and marched us off, you know. I wouldn't be surprised. He also looked at our boots or shoes and thought they weren't polished very well. You know? He had that sort of attitude, but he turned out eventually. I got to know him quite well over the years, and he turned out to be quite a nice chap.
Yeah.
But always very
still set his
regimental,
little regimental ways.
Yeah, that was his life, wasn't it?
So you did your service for 2 years in 53.
53, 55.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where was that? Were you stationed?
I was stationed originally. We did our basic training at a place called Devizes in Wiltshire.
Yeah.
And then I went to a place called Whitchurch in Hampshire for about 8 or 9 months.
Yeah.
Then I got called to the adjutant's office and said, you're going on overseas training, so we had to go on overseas training for a fortnight, which was a real rough day.
How old were you then? Like
18.
Roughly 18. So you left
just
school at 15. You got into this big building, Scots, and worked your way up, and then suddenly you're on a boat. Is it to Japan?
Yeah.
Wow.
Went to Japan.
Yeah.
I think my parents were very worried because Japanese people had a bad reputation at that time because of their wartime activities.
Yeah.
In fact, it turned out we found that the Japanese were wonderful people, very friendly, very hospitable. Yeah. And
very humble in the end, aren't they?
Yeah. Very gentle.
Yeah.
And most surprising. And we enjoyed it, and that led to other things eventually. With Japan, involvement with them.
Yeah, after you left Scots, we'll come to that in a minute.
Yeah.
So then obviously after you'd done your sort of 2 years, you came back to Scots.
I came back to Scots,
Yeah. And then picked up where you left off basically?
More or less, yeah. And then eventually took over in charge of the sales invoice section of the accounts department when it was in the new office. And we called it the new office.
Who else was working in there then?
Oh, there was Peter Lubbock. He was he was a clerk like myself, if you like, and there was I can't remember. James Aldridge, the accountant, Nelson Bell, who was the assistant accountant. Peter Lubbock. There was also a chap called Roy Clark who did the sales analysis, which is another thing we took over when we left. He went back to Australia.
Yeah.
He was Australian, and there was a Miss Amos who was in charge of the purchase invoice section.
Okay.
And she had a sister who ran the planning department, some sort of planning. I can't remember now. It was such a long while ago. But anyway, they were sisters, and So and there was all the girls as well, and the men and the girls got sacked one year.
Sorry, men and.
So
someone got sacked?
Yeah, got sacked instantly, instant dismissal because, well, we had that was in the old office in the Hardy Road.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had heating that came through ducts. Probably had asbestos. I wouldn't be surprised in those days. And one day the heating, that was in the middle of winter, there was snow outside and the heating went on. And of course, that really was cold, and a lot of them walked out. And Ted Castle, the company secretary, came and said to Olga, sack the lot.
Really?
I heard him say, sack the lot, and they did.
It's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all sacked instantly, came to instant
Because
dismissal. Except for those who stayed on. About 2 of them stayed on, and
yeah.
because they formed the nucleus of the new employees, rather.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And did you have any? Did you know anyone who worked there before you? Like any family connections?
No.
Any since?
No.
No.
No. No.
Did you meet your wife there?
Yes, other than Jill. Yes.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. I was going to say.
Yeah.
And was she working like across the table from you?
She worked in the sales invoice department, eventually in the new office.
Right. Yeah.
And I worked in the accounts department, which was next door. And well, from there on,
yeah, you never looked
what
back.
happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah. She eventually went on to be the secretary to Jeff W, the company assistant secretary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Cool. And then like what? So you sort of stayed there like well till 81 basically. And did you get involved in any of the sports activities or
No, I
anything
didn't.
like that?
No, I never got involved in those sort of things. I had a little business I was running on the side, so that took up all my spare time. And
breaking into stage now. I didn't mean that.
And my son was very heavily involved in the Norwich Swan Swimming Club.
Okay.
Yeah. And as was my daughter Sally.
I know somebody used to do that. I'll mention it to you.
Swan?
Yeah, I'll bring it up after this.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, down at St Augustine's.
St Augustine's.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
And so, are you still in contact with anyone that you used to work with?
What, with Aldridge Scots?
Yeah.
No,
Not really.
No, other than Janet Lee, who was one of the typists in the sales invoice.
Yeah.
So I contacted her for the first time after all these years, about a month, 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And said hello, and she apparently left some while ago now.
What was her name again, sorry?
Janet Lee. Janet Lee. She was a ginger, well, she in my day, she was slightly, I don't know if she'll like me saying this, but she was a ginger.
Okay.
Her dad was a car, they were the Kettringham's car people.
Alright, yeah. Well, she might see this, she might not.
I don't think she's got I don't think she's got Facebook. I don't think she's
well, I'll be putting this on YouTube for people who hasn't got Facebook.
Yeah.
So then, sort of briefly after you left Scots, was that under a cloud, slate cloud?
It was, yeah. Well, redundancy, you know.
Yeah.
Well, there'd been some trouble with the money there.
Yeah.
They asked me to get rid of one typist from the sales, which I did. And
it's not a nice thing to do, though, is it? But
no.
if your manager's told you you've got to, then you've got to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but what the company said was that if I could get rid of one, which we could. In fact, she left, but we didn't replace her. That's basically what happened.
Yeah.
And they would split the money equally between the company and the girls who were left, or the people who were left. You know, the sales invoices.
So some things work, I suppose.
Yeah, but they didn't work out that as far as I was concerned. They paid me less than they paid them. So
how much was that?
Well, they paid them 10 shillings each.
And you were short by...
I got my 7 and 6pence.
You were short by, you told me a minute ago.
Half a crown.
Half a crown.
or in modern terms, 12 and a half pence.
So
that changed my life completely from there on. All over half a crown.
Over half a crown, you didn't feel that was... Yeah,
because I decided that was enough for Lawrence and Scots and me. So when eventually the auditors said that they needed a credit controller, and I was offered the job, and I said no. They very much wanted me to do it. I don't know why, but they did.
Yeah.
And they offered me, shall I tell you,
another
£100 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, £100 a year. I think that's less than £2 a week.
Yeah.
To do that. But to carry on doing what I was also doing at the sales, running the sales,
Yeah.
And eventually, because I said no, and anyway, I got told by the then accountant, Gordon Ray, that if I didn't take it, there would be no more promotions, me and his office and blah blah blah. And I said,
And then,
so what?
but then 1981 come and redundancies and yeah.
And then I went to British Gas.
Yeah.
In did Creamwood Lane, which is at the back of the old Thorpe Road Works.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was there on a temporary assignment for turned out to about I think about 8 or 9 months, something like that. And then I was off the job up at the main office, a permanent job at Roundtree Way.
And you were telling me earlier you got to meet some Japanese lady. Is that right?
No, there was one of the women who worked there. She took in lodgers from the Bell School of Languages in Eton.
Yeah.
And one of the lodgers she had was a Masako Fuji, who was a Japanese girl, obviously. And so I got introduced to this girl because they knew that I'd been in Japan in the army, and anyway, when this girl went home on a holiday in the sort of July, August time, she went down to this city where I'd been in the army called Curry, and tried to find my old army site. Didn't tell me she was going. I didn't know anything about this, and then couldn't find it. But got in trouble with the Japanese army there, the Self-Defence Force as they call it, and because she went on one of their sites and apparently weren't supposed to. But anyway, she finished up at the town hall, or city hall, and asked them if they knew, if anybody knew, and nobody did. But they said they got a historian, Professor Takeshi Chida, who was away on business, but he would know all that, and. So she got his address, and
you made contact.
I made contact with him, and things went from there. I sent him out some photographs of my time out there, and he said he was researching the history of the city. Had I got any more photographs? So I sent him some more, and I said, would you like me to try and contact anybody else? And that set the real ball rolling.
Yeah, and how many people did you contact?
Over 1,000 in the end.
Wow.
500.
For people that were stationed out there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Different regiments, some army, some navy, mostly army.
Yeah.
Some naval people who'd been on different navy ships.
And you've been out there since, haven't you?
Yeah, I went out there. From all those people, many of them said, I'd love to go back again, see what the place is like now. So I thought about it and got in touch with the company called Jaltor in London, part of Japan Airlines.
Right,
and talked to them and told them what I wanted to do, and we arranged 14-day trips out there, and I did them for 14 times.
Been 14 times?
14 times out there. Each one to Curry.
Because you met this lodger from the person who was at British Gas.
Yeah, all over half a crown.
All over half a crown from Lawrence of Scots, yeah. It's funny how things work out, isn't it?
Yeah, otherwise I'd have probably finished at Lawrence of Scots as
and not gone to Japan 14 times.
That's right.
Yeah.
And incidentally, the credit controller who eventually was employed was an ex-RAF officer. Sometimes he used to ask me questions, and I got fed up with it. I told him that he was the credit controller, not me. But eventually he finished up doing just that, and he had an assistant as well. Whereas they wanted me to do it. And the other job as well. So it's a good job I got out of it, really, because
everything's
really
for a reason, isn't it? Well, no, I think it's still a great place, to be fair.
It probably is, to be honest, I'd love to go back and look around there and just sort of...
And they did do that for a while. They used to have tours, didn't they, I think?
Did they?
And I'm probably going back a while, I've been there 32 years, so I'm probably going back 30 years. I remember people coming around, like ex-employees, and I think that'd be great to do it now, wouldn't it? I think people would want to go around.
Yeah, I think
some of the machines will still be there.
Oh, they probably would, because I remember when I didn't tell you this, but when one of the jobs I got when I came back out of the army was updating the records of all the plant, the machinery in the company, in both main works and Thorpe Road, and they hadn't been touched since before the war, and each each machine, each had been capitalised, written off against capital, charged to capital, had to be depreciated initially by, I think it was 10% per annum, So I had to do it every year for all these machines, and do it all by hand, year after year after year. And you imagine all the machines there were. So yeah, that was one of the jobs I got. And some of the machinery I remember in the old, what's it called, the light winding shop?
Ooh, like what, small machines?
No, the winding shop where they.
Oh,
made the-
sorry.
yeah, where they
Light
did
winding shop.
the armatures. I mean, I'm not a technical.
Yeah.
And that was right next to where that office is now. You know, where the office which is demolished.
Right,
You know,
okay.
at the railway cottage end, and they were belt driven. Had belts. I always remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they,
I've seen pictures, I think.
And they date back. The earliest piece of machinery they had there was 1898, and there was a lot of it.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we're gonna leave it there.
Okay.
All right. It's been great.
Yeah, it's
Thank
been
you.
interesting to
Yeah.
talk.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.